Hi, this is Katie Crumick. I'm your instructor for Design Thinking for Social Innovation. Welcome to week 5. In this launch video, I just want to essentially check in with you, review all of the assignments for the course. We have the midterm due this week, as well as go over the design frameworks that you'll also need to complete for this week to keep your design project moving forward. As always, before I get into that, I'll just say, please reach out over email and schedule office hours with me if you have any questions or concerns. Bailey is also a resource for you, and we look forward to learning more about your design work when we start to review the midterm. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if we're in Canvas on week 5, as always, you have some readings, of some lecture to watch, and then also your design work. The assignments that are due this week, one is your online discussion participation, as always, meeting with your peer mentor team and submitting that quiz, completing and submitting the design frameworks weeks 2 through 4. So if we go to Mural, you should, for your midterm, have completed all of the design work for week 2, week 3, which includes the interview, and week 4, which includes brainstorming and selecting a solution. As you prepare to turn in your midterm, we encourage you to look back at your design work, reflect on what you've generated, maybe look for ways to push your thinking deeper and further, so that when you are finished with your midterm, you feel like you really put a lot of depth of thinking and effort in to your design work from weeks 2 through 4. I would request, I will, after the due date for the midterm, I will be able to go in and just review your work. I will leave comments in Mural that you can see, and then I'll also give you points. If you are running behind and need an extension, please reach out to me as soon as possible to be proactive so that we can make a plan. Otherwise, you don't need to actually submit anything. So I'll be able to access your Mural, just have everything complete and ready to go by the deadline, and you should be good to go. So that's the midterm that's due. And then, as I mentioned, there's also some design frameworks for week 5, because this is a little bit more of a compressed course. So what you're going to be doing in week 5, and I discussed this in the lecture as well, is you're going to be taking that idea you selected and developing a prototype, which is an experience that a stakeholder could try out that allows you to understand and get real authentic feedback about your idea. And I say in the lecture video, it's one thing to pitch an idea and say, hey, like, how about, we have a cheese party on the moon? Doesn't that sound cool? It's one thing to say that, and it's another thing to ask someone to participate, right? Like, it would be very different to be like, get in my rocket ship, we're going to the moon, right? Obviously, that's a silly example, but that's the idea of the prototyping versus pitching. You want to get out of kind of verbally trying to convince someone of your idea, and you want to create an experience for them to try. So what week 5 is focused on is developing that prototype. And prototypes, the best prototypes are organized around the kinds of assumptions you're making about an idea. So you want to think about, okay, what assumptions are embedded in my solution? Why do I feel like this is going to make a difference for my stakeholders? And then how can I pull out that assumption and just test that? Because the idea of a prototype is also that it is small, low effort, low resolution. So you're not putting a ton of time, energy, and money into the experience you're creating. It can be very rough. And I have some examples over here of prototypes that I developed when I was working for the Aga Khan Foundation. So there you can click into these and see a little video that we made as a prototype, a Google slide deck that we made as a prototype, and just this kind of flow chart we made as a prototype. Then these two videos here are me testing the prototypes with my colleagues and getting feedback. So you can see that I was testing via Zoom. My colleagues were actually in Kenya. Halima was in Kenya and Arjun was in India. So they're very far away. But I was still able to take these prototypes I made that I spent like an hour making and then get feedback from them. So you design that prototype. And then the last part of week 5 is kind of making your plan for how you're going to test your prototype, thinking about who you want to reach out to get feedback, making sure that's someone that's kind of in your network. It could be a person that you interviewed before. It could be a new person if you wanted to. But you're not, in order to complete week 5, you don't have to complete the prototype, the testing of the prototype just yet. So as we transition, you will need to have finished testing your prototype and all of the prototype reflection for weeks by the end of week 6. So we're trying to chunk it up for you. So week 5 is really planning your prototype, reaching out, scheduling, and then by the end of week 6, you need to complete all of these reflection documents about how testing your prototype went and what you learned. As always, we have a rubric down at the bottom here that helps you to understand kind of where you should be with developing your prototype and push you to then make improvements on that. Okay, so as always, please reach out if you have any questions or concerns, and good luck. Thanks.